Hi everyone, welcome to another Experimenta. My name is Allison Irvine, and today we will be speaking with science illustrator Stephanie Rozzo. We will be talking to her about her work and how science illustration can be used as a tool for science education as well as conservation. So thank you so much for being with us here today, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Just before we start, I want to encourage everybody to go and visit Imagine Science Film's CROWDRISE page. We will have a link in the events page to this Experimenta, as well as a link to this on this video as well. So if you could do that, that would be awesome. Okay, let's get down to it. So Stephanie, how did your interest in science and science illustration evolve? Were you always interested in science, or is it something that kind of came a little bit later?
Well, I was always really interested in animals, but it all started out with art, really. I was always drawing since I was very little, and I continued with that and worked on improving that skill, even though my resources were pretty limited as a child. And then I started to really get more focused towards animals and science when I got into high school. Mm-hmm. And started thinking about becoming a veterinarian. And so I actually did my undergraduate degree at the University of Arizona. I started out as a pre-vet. Then I made a lot of changes. So I started out as a pre-vet, and then I decided that by working at a vet office that wasn't really what I was wanting to do. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I went ahead and changed over to Ecology and Evolutionary Biology because I still wanted to work with animals. Then I decided I wanted to become a zookeeper of some sort, or work with zoo education, try to help with conservation. And then from there, I actually worked as a zookeeper for a while. Once I graduated, and I worked in zoo education. And then I realized I really missed my art. As an undergraduate, I took classes in color and design and drawing. And I also, while I studied abroad in Australia for a short period of time, and they placed me into a class of scientific illustration. That's where I really learned about scientific illustration itself. So that was a lot of fun, and I kind of went after being a zookeeper, and I was kind of like trying to figure out how I could make art become part of what I do with the science and kind of merge everything together. And science illustration just seemed great. I really liked realistic, accurate illustration. Scientific illustration is really all about making sure it's scientifically accurate. Mm-hmm. And so I felt like it was a great field to get into, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, your work is beautiful. We'll show a little bit in a bit. Did you feel like, trying to choose between, being a zookeeper or like an artist, did you feel like there was ever a time where you kind of struggled to combine the two?
Yeah, it did. While I was a zookeeper, I felt like something was missing, like I wasn't really on the right path for me. And when I finally figured out to be a science illustrator, I really felt I feel like I'm on the right path now. I feel like I get to still do stuff with animals as far as drawing and painting them. I don't really work with them so much anymore, but I still get to try to inspire people and to think about conservation every once in a while, so that's nice. I volunteer. I try to volunteer to work with wild animals and such on the side as well if I have time.
Oh, wow. Do you get some of your inspiration for your drawings through those volunteer projects, or do people mostly like commission you for work, or both? A little bit of both?
Yeah, a little bit of both. So I do commissions, and those are great. I love commissions, but they're not as fun as the ones that just inspire me.
Right.
So the commissions are great because they usually get a little bit more exposure, and it's fun to work with people on projects and collaborate and help them make their idea a reality. But then it's also a lot of fun just to do whatever inspires me. I was volunteering at the Monterey Bay Aquarium here. I live in Monterey, California. And I was volunteering with the seahorses. During the seahorse exhibit, I would clean it every Monday. And it was a lot of scrubbing.
Yeah.
And one of the Weedy Seadragons were going to have babies, and I was inspired by that, and I looked into the process, and I said, there really isn't anything on this as far as an illustration. I thought they were beautiful and colorful, and just decided to create an illustration on them. It turned out really nice. Won an award recently, so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I do a little bit of both.
Oh yeah. Do you mind if I just show that drawing very quickly on
Yeah,
your
go ahead.
website? Okay, great. Very, very cool.
I have a better picture I can
Okay.
show you.
Yeah, sure. Looks it out.
I can pull it up.
Sure, that'd be great.
So that's a little bit better resolution than my website.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So you can see like the development of the Weedy Seadragon. I work with experts to find this stuff out. I don't know any of these things.
Okay.
I double check the anatomy with them and make sure it's the right size.
Yeah.
I actually found someone who did a bunch of research on Weedy Seadragon development during these different stages.
Oh, wow.
So and hopefully I have a link to her article on her journal on my website. It should be there. If not,
Yeah.
I update that.
Yeah, we can definitely link it to the events page as well for this experiment.
Okay.
For that particular drawing, what materials did you use, or what materials do you usually use?
Well, that one, I use a lot of different materials, actually. That one was, the background is graphite, and then the foreground is acrylic.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, the Weedy Seadragons, the adults, are created on a painting with the background. Mm-hmm. And then the babies, the fry, are all created on a separate piece of substrate. So I did it all on an illustration board, illustration paper. Okay. So those were all done with acrylic. And I decided to do the background black and white so that it didn't really take away from the color of the Weedy Seadragons, but I still wanted to show their habitat. They really spend a lot of time blending in with their environment, but I didn't want them to blend in too much.
Right. Yeah. Very cool. It's beautiful. So when you collaborate with these kind of experts, do you find it's easier for you to collaborate because you have a little bit of a like science background, or do you feel like what's kind of the process in that collaboration?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it would be harder as a non-scientist. Sometimes the scientists that I collaborate with really know so much more than I do, and I have to do some research to understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's they're right at the same level, and I can understand everything, and then sometimes it's, it just depends on the expert and how much I actually know about that particular subject. You would be surprised once you start looking into something, the little details you've never thought about.
Right.
And that's why I consult experts.
That makes sense. It seems like it would take kind of more than one person to get an accurate representation. So do these illustrations, do they mostly go to museums or in journals? Are they used for like in like medical textbooks or different things like that for education?
It all depends. This particular, the one you just showed, was just something that I was inspired to do, ended up going in a museum, being shown. The original went to a private buyer, and that's pretty much all I've done with it. If someone wanted to use it, they could contact me to find out about usage with a licensing fee. A lot of things I've done end up in journals. Sometimes, as an illustrator, scientific illustrator, things can go in so many different directions. There's really just a bunch of different directions that can go. So it can do any of the things that you mentioned.
Wow, that's really cool. So I know that you mentioned on your website like nature conservation. Do you find that you've become more interested in conservation since you've been a science illustrator, or do you feel like you kind of like strive to bring awareness to some issues through your illustrations?
I think that mostly I just do what's inspiring to me, because figure that will, if I make a beautiful illustration, it'll help people to kind of think more about nature in general. I haven't really had a chance to focus on any particular issues in conservation. I've been thinking about it, but I haven't really executed that at this time. And as far as being aware of conservation issues, I've always been interested in conservation, and I try to stay up with it, and it's something that I continually do. And it's just nice to be able to merge the world of conservation with my interest in art.
Yeah, definitely. Seems amazing. So, what are some of your favorite objects to draw? This may seem like a little basic, but is there something in particular that you just really enjoy doing?
I really get bored if I just do one thing.
Yeah.
So I like to do all sorts of things, and I like to change. So I do a lot of botanicals, I do a lot of animals, so every once in a while I'll do people. So it just depends on what I'm inspired by at the moment or what I'm commissioned for. I don't really like doing objects so much, but I do objects. And things like buildings and cars on occasion.
Yeah.
But I prefer to do people, plants, and animals the most.
Yeah.
I just find them more interesting.
Sense. So do you get to like travel at all, depending on where you like what you're doing or like commissioned work?
Not really, actually. I know it seems like it would be something I would travel to go see something, to draw it. But usually those things are all available in museums if I need to see a specimen. And so that's just a short drive away, or go to a lab, which isn't that far. Or I actually do a lot of work just referring to scientific journals or just different photo references that I'm given. Usually that works out really well.
Yeah. So you said that you also like to use different materials. Do you ever like use a computer, like for like Adobe Illustrator or anything with your work?
Oh yeah, I do Illustrator work. I did some pieces recently for a park here for showing their pollinator garden, what type of pollinators visit the plants. And those were all done using Illustrator. And I also do things just with Photoshop sometimes. I use Illustrator for the base, for the outline, and then I build on that in Photoshop. I can share one of my all Photoshop pictures if you like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Up real quick. So that's something I did completely in Photoshop.
Wow.
So it's a little different slightly different from my other art, but definitely has the same style, I think.
Yeah. That was beautiful. How long does it usually take you to do something like that?
Oh, it varies. Usually most projects take anywhere from 20 to 60 hours, depending on like an average project. Research usually takes more time than anything else.
Yeah.
And make sure everything is just accurate. So that's always a big consideration.
Yeah, that's usually the way it goes, where research kind of takes the majority of the time.
It's fun though doing research. It's always fun learning something new.
Yeah, definitely. Do you feel like your skill base has grown, or your knowledge base in terms of scientific topics has grown since then?
I don't know if it has grown. I really don't always remember all the little facts and specifics, but I have learned how to understand things better, for sure.
Yeah. Do you feel like, so as, like, I'm an art and science person as well, and so for like science education, do you feel like visuals, like for you personally learning in school, did did visuals have a big impact on how you learned or like the quality of your education versus like textbook learning, different things like that?
For me personally, yeah, I'm a big visual learner.
Yeah.
It takes me twice as long to learn by reading as it does to look at a picture. And I have a lot of fun trying to figure out, I look at complex information as a little puzzle, and it's fun to figure out how to solve that puzzle and turn it into a visual that everyone can understand. Simplify all the facts. And I think it is, for me, it was really great to have any kinds of visuals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I feel like me too, just as a learner, visuals stick with me a lot longer than text ever does. So it's definitely very, very important for like catering to a different type of learner. So do you have any advice for people who are, have more questions about how to break into this field, or just advice in general?
Well, you definitely need to have a strong portfolio. So working on making sure that you have work for people to view is really important. If people don't see your work, they don't always imagine that that work's going to be possible. And so having that available to them is really great. And that's really the main thing. And persistence, if you decide to do freelance illustration, persistence is a big deal. You're going to get told no more than anything else. It's kind of like a sales job.
Yeah.
So you're going to apply a lot. There's going to be a lot of competition. And you can't really let the things get you down if people tell you they're not interested. Because really they're looking for something else that's not exactly what you have. And that's just fine.
Yeah, I feel like that's good advice to just keep going with it. Do you feel like recently there's been an increasing demand for science illustrators? Sorry, I feel like I'm like peppering you with questions, but it's just really fascinating to me.
No, I don't really think, I don't really know. I haven't really studied the market that much or really thought about it too much. When I first got into being a scientific illustrator, before I decided to make it my career, I did consult some people who have been in this field for a while, and I asked them what they thought, that particular question, if there were going to be jobs and it was a viable career. And they said, yeah, you just have to work hard at it and be persistent, and you can find work for sure. I think that, to me, it seems like the job market's probably about steady from what it was before. It's changed a lot as far as what people are looking for, but it's still steady.
Yeah. How has it changed in terms of what people are looking for?
In my perspective, I think it's changed as far as more digital illustration. People are looking for more digital work.
Right.
They're not always wanting the traditional, but people do still like the traditional work as well. So maybe more of a push towards digital is the big change.
Yeah, it makes sense. I feel like that's kind of the trend nowadays, as things are going more and more toward the digital, which is why it's nice to see someone who still completely does it by hand and it's still appreciated. Do you feel like, in terms of becoming a science illustrator, that it's better to kind of be able to do it all, or is it like, is there a need for like a niche market for somebody that can do one thing really well? What do you?
I find it handy to be able to do a lot of different things. Yeah. But you want to feel comfortable with what you're doing, and I just so happen to feel comfortable with a lot of different medias. The only thing I don't use is oil. I guess there's some other medias that aren't as well known that I don't use as well, but for me personally, it's great to have a lot of different medias to be using. But some people definitely are very successful only using a few. So it just depends on your personal style and what exactly you're wanting to do with it.
And I know that you live in Monterey, California, so is there a specific place that you prefer to work? Do you have like a studio has very specific, requirements of what you need, or is there a specific place that you like to work?
I don't have a lot of requirements. I just need a desk, a place to put my my work area is pretty small, and just need a place to store my supplies.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. I like to listen to music, or sometimes audiobooks. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Those are probably the only requirements. Pretty I don't need a lot.
Right. Makes sense. So is there anything else that you want to show, or any final words before we wrap up?
Nothing that I can really think of. I think people should, if they want to see more of my work, definitely visit my website. And www.stephanierazzo.com. And thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And chatting.
Of course, yeah. Thank you so much for being here with us. We definitely have the link to your website up on our events page, so people can go check that out. Okay, well, awesome. Thank you so much. This was great. I just want to very quickly, before we go, just remind everyone again to please go to our events page to click on our CrowdRise link for fundraising. It's very important if you want to keep events like these Experimentas with these awesome artists and scientists going. So anything would help. It would be great. Okay, well, thanks so much again, Stephanie.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.